You can't be an immigrant or a child of an immigrant without some emotional scars. I remember being put on the plane and being like, you're gonna meet your parents. People that I'd never met. Didn't feel the love. I know my parents loved me. I didn't feel it. When you put boundaries, it's gonna cost relationships or opportunities. Asian immigrant mentality is, yeah, don't talk about it, shut up and just work hard. Life is tough and you're gonna get hit and you're gonna get pushed down. How quickly will you get up? It's not basic, it's freeing.
All right. Well, hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So great to have you here, Yuli, and so great to be in your city in Vegas. And I'm just really excited to dive in because I've learned just so much about you, in the short time that we met and, been introduced to be able to speak on this podcast. And, just even reading your book as well, just learning about all the kind of career options that you've been through, right? Going through medical school to explore being a doctor, being a law enforcement officer, and then kind of landing on being an insurance agent and owning your own agency, but also being an author, which I'm really also excited to talk about, as well as more importantly, being a mom, a wife, and a leader. So we're going to dive into all of that. Now, more specifically, as a 1.5 or 1.5 generation Korean American, you grew up between two very different worlds. And I want to ask, what was a defining moment that shaped you to be the strong woman you are today, who has built your own agency that's lasted for over 22 years, who's built a marriage that's going on almost 23 years, as well as a care and leadership philosophy and a growing authorship journey?
There's a lot in that question packed in there. I had a friend tell me once, and I completely agree with this, that you can't be an immigrant or a child of an immigrant without some emotional scars. And I came to this country when I was 2.5 years old. I was born in Korea. And when I was born, my parents came to the US. They immigrated and they wanted to get things ready for me before I came. And so I was raised by my maternal grandparents. And I remember, and people are like, you can't have memories from when you were like 2. But I remember being put on the plane and being like, you're going to go meet your parents, people that I'd never met, right? Like you're going to be on this plane and you're going to go meet like your mom and dad kind of thing. And so definitely, obviously traumatic if I remember that when I was 2.5 years old. But I think it's the trauma, right, that creates who we are. I think how we respond to it, our resiliency associated with all those things. And I'm sure we're going to dive deeper into some of that. But I think that's what shapes us and makes us who we are, good and bad.
I love that. Yeah, it kind of sucks that we have to go through that, but I think it's really, kind of hitting rock bottom, as we talked with Jill about yesterday, and what I also connected with Ivan, the studio owner, about. That's, really kind of led us to our success.
Yeah.
And like I kind of mentioned, you've been leading your team and serving your community for over 2 decades. So what would you say is a common misconception among business owners or leaders to lead with confidence and care long term?
I think for a lot of us, and I'm just going to speak in generalities, I don't have any statistics, don't quote me on it, don't fact check me, right? But I think a lot of people who are entrepreneurs go into entrepreneurship because there's some trauma there in their past of childhood, and same thing of like this feeling of I need to prove myself, I need to get there. Success equals love. I think it's all tied into that. And so I think one of the things, common misconception in that we do is when I get there, when I hit this goal, when I get this, it's just going to miraculously, magically be amazing and wonderful. And that's not always the case.
Right. I think it takes a type of personality or a person to be an entrepreneur, as I'm learning, because you have to be okay with change. You have to be okay with failing and being out of your comfort zone.
And again, when I say trauma and all the things, like I think that's pretty common in Asian families where we don't get a lot of praise and we don't get a lot of validation. I don't ever remember my parents telling me they were ever proud of me until I gave them their first grandson. Then, I was able to birth a boy. So like I'm worthy now kind of thing, right? But I think there's part of that too that drives you, right? And so I don't know. I mean, obviously that's not good. That's not a happy childhood, right? But it's also what made me me and who I am. And so there's some beauty in that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, kind of focusing on women or people of color, there's often this internal battle of wanting to lead, but also not wanting to take up too much space. So how did you navigate that?
Ooh, I'm still navigating it, right? It's that whole masculine, feminine energy. It's also, there's different expectations too. I share this story all the time. Like, I remember when my boys, I always try to be the room mom. Like, I wanted to be that involved mother, even though I had my own business and I was working like crazy. I mean, I basically did not sleep for probably the first 10 years of my kids' lives, right? Because I wanted to do all the things, like make the cookies, make the Christmas ornaments, do all of that. And so I remember one time I had a very early morning appointment and it was picture day at school. And so I asked my husband, like, you got to do the boys' hair. You got to get their hair done. And he's a great partner, great father. He helps. But again, just different dynamics, right? And so if you put my kids' pictures, like every year they were in school, you will be able to point out that's the one that your husband did their hair, right? And I tell that story as like a fun, like difference between men and women story. Mm-hmm. But I remember another female entrepreneur was like, no, I always make sure I'm home for picture day to make sure all their pictures are great. And she didn't say it to me in a judgment way or any of that, but it made me feel like a horrible mother. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's that whole, like, I want to be this amazing, successful career woman and have this amazing business, but I also want to be a great mom and a great, wife. And it's just not sometimes, it's just really hard.
Okay. Well, so what are some of the, I guess, roles or responsibilities that you and your husband have worked out?
So, that's 25 years together of working those things. And it's just, there's seasons, right? So there's seasons that I do more. There's seasons that he does more, and also different personalities. So I remember one time we got in a fight, right? And I was like, come on, seriously, I have just done these 10 things, right? And he felt so like diminished and like he was upset because I didn't appreciate the 2 things that he did, right? But again, we all have emotional, productive capabilities. And he was like, these 2 things are equal to your 10 things. And he truly believed that, right? And so now it's making it, okay, maybe not 2 to 10, but maybe it's like a 4 to 7, right? Like, I do have a lot of energy. I do get a lot of things done, but it's like finding that compromise that works for you. It's never good. I don't know. People are like, it's 50-50. I don't think it's ever 50-50.
No.
And there are other aspects of our lives that he does more of, right? So it's just finding that balance and communicating. Communication is the key.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. We're going to dive into that a little bit later. Now, what would you say are 1 to 2 mindset shifts that has helped you show up as a caring and effective leader, even on the days that you didn't feel good or ready?
Mind shifts that has made me an effective leader. I would go back to everybody's different and everyone's perspective is different. And so when I think I can do, 20 things and I'm like, why couldn't you do these 3? I think some people really feel like, and they're trying their best, right? And so honoring people's perspectives, but also pushing them. Because again, it's like, don't get comfortable just doing this. Like, what can you do? So again, appreciating the whole human. And then the other shift for me is I used to have, it sounds so, maybe I shouldn't share this in a podcast, but I used to joke around that I'm like, I'm right most of the time. Like 95% of the time I'm right. And it would frustrate me because I would tell my family or my friends like, ooh, you shouldn't do that. You should do this. And then they totally wouldn't listen to me and they would do whatever they wanted to do. And then they would come back and then complain that it didn't work out. And it took everything I had. And sometimes I'd be like, I told you, right? But a lot of times I would try to hold that in instead of being like, I told you so, right? And so I used to joke that I wanted this t-shirt that said, I'm right 95% of the time. You should just listen to me, right? But how egotistical is that? And it was true though. I'm just saying, putting it out there. It was true, but how just condescending that is in all aspects. And it's like, you're going to make your choices. And from those mistakes, you learn, right? And so, extending that to my friends and family, extending that to my team, it's okay. We're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn from them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. I learned that with my students because I teach in a high school classroom that, sometimes they just have to make their own mistakes or even family members. Mm-hmm. So I guess thinking back to your culture, right? Like what are some, whether mindset things or just cultural practices that you have, one, adopted and kept within from your culture, or also released?
I think a common stereotype, and it's true, of Asians is like we're very studious and we value education. And I definitely have kept that. I mean, I'm not saying it has to be standard, college education. I'm talking about constant learning. I love that. I am always trying to learn something new, whether it's a skill or read a book or whatnot. I didn't know this until this happened to me. I got kicked out of UCLA because you can have too many credits. Like literally, I got a letter in my senior year of college that said, you have too many credits. You need to graduate.
Mhm.
You are going to be kicked out next semester.
Whoa.
Yeah. Who knew? I'm like, you could take credits indefinitely. I had enough credits where I really could have graduated college in 3 years. I extended it to 5 because I loved it. And so definitely the thirst for learning is there, and I've incorporated that in all aspects of my life. When I released, I think I can have a tendency to be the tiger mom, like push, strive, do what do your best, all of that, a B is an Asian F kind of thing, right? But I didn't have a happy childhood. Right? I didn't get a lot of praise or a lot of what I felt was affection and love. And I married a white boy. And I think there's some balance there where he's like, dude, you're being a little over the top. Like, let them have their childhood. And so releasing some of that and letting them just, again, like my husband said, have a happy childhood.
How's that felt to see that change within yourself and your kids?
I struggle with it still. Right? Because I feel like, and again, I joke about this, but I feel like some of that trauma has made me push and helped me have success. And I feel like sometimes now my kids are so kind of chill. And I want them to be happy and not struggle and not have to feel this need to prove themselves, right? But I also want them to push themselves. And, my husband thinks they do, and they do, but again, it's not to what I think my level should be or their level should be. And so I joke that I'm like, I should have told them that they suck or something. It was total, instead of being like, I'm proud of you and I love you, it should be like, you suck, you can do better. But no, it's a conflict that I'm still working out within myself.
Yeah, I think about that as parent my dog. I can see like certain tendencies in how I was raised and how that's coming out, and sometimes even like some aggression, and like I don't want to continue that. So I think it's still an ongoing journey of finding that balance of how can we be firm enough but also caring enough.
I know they're the competition to my insurance franchise, but those progressive commercials of like when you become your parents, I see that tendency sometimes in myself for sure.
But I think at the same time, we can give ourselves grace. Like, of course, there's like so much beauty and strength that came from your upbringing, I'm sure. And
my parents are wonderful people. They did the best they could with what they thought was the right way.
Yeah. And how are they as grandparents to your kids?
Oh, okay. This is where, again, I've had to kind of work on some of my anger issues, I guess, towards them, or resentment issues, because they're so different. Like, especially my mother, she's the one that I would say that I had the hardest time with, right? And I tell this story and she denies it. It's actually in the book where, I went to UCLA and I was pre-med and I'm taking one of the hardest classes, organic chemistry. And there's like 400 kids. I mean, it's like huge classrooms, at UCLA. 400 like really smart students, and I got the 3rd highest grade, and I was so proud of myself. I was like, I'm gonna frame this exam. I'm so cool. And she literally said, why were you first or second? And so again, always striving but she helped me with my kids when they were little. She watched them for me while I was building my business, and to see her be like, stop pressuring the kids, let them be, let them have fun. Like, it's not all about school, right? And so it's been a beautiful journey, and it's also been healing for me too, to see that, and for her. And we talk about it, and she's apologized. Again, she's done the best that she could, but it's beautiful, but it's also like, dude, where was this parent? Right? So
I think that's pretty common though, like in how we parent versus grandparent. Yeah. It's always like the opposite. Like if you were kind of too flexible with your kid, then you probably have to like sort of more so parent the grandchild. But then if you're really strict on your kid, then you're going to like just have so much fun with the grandchild. So But it sounds like you have really built a healing journey in multiple ways through the generations. So
We're
it's comforting to
trying.
hear.
Our family is trying, right? It's, again, what do they call it? The generational trauma, right? To try to heal that within a family and stop. And it's always going to be work. It's exhausting, but it's always work, right? No matter how old you are.
Right. And that's kind of the point of these conversations, this business, to really show that, that work can continue within the generations, and healing and change is possible.
Yeah.
So since we talked a little bit about your book, let's dive in. So we have her lovely book here, Culture of Agency, her first book. And in here, you dive into 3 types of agency or team cultures. So can you walk us through just a little bit about that? And what would you say a toxic culture feels like from the inside? And what might be the first thing someone can fix if they feel like their culture is broken right now?
I've heard this saying, and I completely believe it, that entrepreneurship and leadership is the best personal development. It lets you see all the beauty of who you are and the flaws of who you are. And even in the flaws, there's no right or wrong culture. And that's kind of that book, right? That usually in small businesses, I'm not talking like a huge corporation. I mean, corporations have their culture too, but in small businesses, it's the owner or that their personality kind of reflects in the culture. And so I talk about 3. I call them the systems, the competition, and the people culture. So the systems is the entrepreneur is super analytical. It's all about the numbers. It's like all these systems. And so beautiful. All the SOPs are built out. The systems are beautiful, but sometimes it's like, like they forget. Like I remember I was coaching a systems culture entrepreneur, and he's like, I know my team wants compliments and I have to put them on my calendar to remind myself to give them a compliment, right? So, and then there's the competition culture. And these are people who are very goal driven and task oriented, and they're just like, we're going to get stuff done, right? This is what it is. And that's great because, again, great energy, like pushing forward, but that also can create where now you're maybe doing unethical things to make that happen. Like, let's talk about what happened at Wells Fargo kind of thing, right? And then the last is the people culture, where it's like, I go into this because I care about my team and my clients, but just like and I love them like family, but like any family can get really dysfunctional. And I start making excuses for the team. And so there's no, again, strengths and weaknesses in each of the cultures. It's about finding that right competition. So what I call is like, you gotta be the Wizard of Oz in your business, and you gotta give, the systems culture person, like the scarecrow, like you can't just be the scarecrow. You can't just be the lion. You just can't be, the Tin Man. You got to put it all together and give heart, systems and brain all together. So, yeah.
Love it. Yeah, I felt like this came to me, like you came to me at the most perfect time, as I'm trying to build more systems in my life, while I'm building this business, but I'm still a teacher. And I really thought a lot about this book, like in terms of my classroom, because this is my 10th year as a teacher. And, as I want to make that more autonomous and collaborative, I realize I need to basically adopt more of this into that sort of classroom team culture. So I'm going to actually go to a page that I saved. Like I even wrote this part where you were like, the people culture is like what you feel most aligned with. And I was like, me too for now. Because I want to, embed more competition and systems as well into my classroom. But what I want to talk about actually is right after you say your team doesn't expect you to be perfect. They expect you to try your hardest. And I don't expect my team to be perfect, just try their hardest. Leadership starts with vulnerability. Vulnerability in leadership is not weakness, it is strength. And I love that because this is exactly what I brought up with Jill yesterday, that I think that's a common misconception that, when we show vulnerability, it seems weak. But yeah, could you tell us a little bit more about how you have shown vulnerability with your team and how that has, made you stronger?
So it's kind of interesting, my journey, because like I said, I'm a people culture, is I've let some really, unfortunately, and I'm not even going to call them toxic because I allowed it to, right? So there's energy that you bring. So I've had different employees that have, in some ways, in my opinion, taken advantage, right? But I allowed that, right? Because I didn't put clear boundaries. And it's so interesting because the good team members, they want the boundaries. They want you to be like, this is the expectation. Just like children, like you have to put boundaries. You can't just be like, let's go wild, right? And like try to rescue everybody. It's like, what's the common good? Where are we rowing? And so I always share my challenges in leadership, right? Who I am. I do care, but sometimes it's like, I know I got to let this person go, but it's really hard to let this person go. But then they're bringing the rest of the team down, right? So being vulnerable with that to say, hey, I'm doing the best I can. Hold me accountable. Like if I'm going to hold you accountable, you can say, you can hold me accountable too. Right?
Yeah, I think that's really admirable. Like being able to own up to your faults. So I think, not many people can do that, right? They like to like blame others and not really show that, they played a part in whatever happened. And I wanted to ask also, because I feel like this can really be embedded in so many different types of teams. So like, have you basically adopted this, systems, people, and competition culture within your family?
I would say definitely. Like we have marriage meetings, husband and I, right? So more systems. Definitely it's a family. So it's the people culture, right? But also really talking about what are our goals? Like what, when my husband and I like marriage, I mean, I'm trying to be clinical, but it's a partnership. It's like a business partnership. Why are you in this marriage? What is it for? And, we always talked about our goal, and now it's changing because my youngest son is now going off to college, but our goal was to raise good humans for this world. And, we're rowing the boat together. Sometimes I'm rowing faster than he is, and sometimes he's rowing faster than I am, but we're trying to both go in the same direction, right? So, yeah.
Okay. So you got the systems, you got the people. What would competition look like in your family?
We are really competitive. We took a glass art class as a family together, and we were like, my little glass design is better than yours. And my friend owns a glass studio. She's like, I've never seen anyone make art competitive like you guys. So we definitely have a little bit of that in our family, but it's playful because I also don't want it to be where competition's great and you should have that, but it's also not, it shouldn't be toxic either, where you're putting others down so.
Okay, I love that. So basically pairing the competition with fun and play. Awesome. Okay, so of course it's not always fun and games. Now, what does asserting yourself look like when you are leading with care? Because, for example, I can see, let's say with my family, my parents always just kind of gave me and my brother what we want. And I can see that kind of common within certain Asian families. But I realize like that's actually kind of detrimental. It's like you're just kind of giving us everything, but because, you came to this country with, very little and you want to be able to provide everything, but then you're not really actually setting us up for real success by, providing boundaries and, giving us certain like rules and guidelines, whether it comes to like money or like earning things. So if you can share a little bit about that and maybe when was a moment of tension and how'd you overcome that?
It makes me think of this story, and hubby and I actually really disagreed on this. So when my oldest son, he was probably 8 or 9. So we live in Vegas. It doesn't get that cold that often, right? And kids grow out of their clothes really quickly, right? So you buy one warm jacket, like a thicker jacket before winter, and then they're supposed to wear it all of winter. And then the next year you have to buy a new one because they've grown out of it, right? And so my son was constantly losing his jacket, just constantly losing it. Forget it at school, just being so reckless with it. And of course, we just buy him a new one. And finally, I'm like, this is a lesson that he needs to learn, that like you can't be careless. And so I said, next time you lose your jacket, he had Christmas money and, birthday money that he gets and stuff from family. And so we're like, you have to use your Christmas money and buy yourself a jacket. Like, that's not our responsibility anymore. We already bought you 2 this winter. And of course, what happened? He lost his jacket. And I said, you have to buy another one. And it wasn't, and then when you're trying to buy it in the middle of winter, there's not a lot of choices. And it was an expensive jacket. It was like, for a little kid, right? It was like $70. And he cried because he didn't want to use his money for that. Like $70, you could buy a lot of candy and games and all of that. And so he cried, and hubby was like, it's a jacket. It's a necessity. Like, we should be providing that. And I'm like, yeah, but we provided it twice this winner, and this is his third, and he needs to learn that. And so, of course, you don't want to see your kids cry, but you also want to be like, what are the boundaries and what are the lessons? So you can, I think it's being clear. It's not like it was a surprise to him that that was going to happen, right? Clear with your intentions of, hey, we make mistakes. I'll help it, but this is the third one, and now it's your responsibility. What are you going to learn? And then he's never lost his jacket after that. He hasn't.
Okay. So
Yeah.
he used his own money to buy the jacket. Your husband ended up being okay with it, and then he never lost it. Right. Absolutely. I think a lot of parents aren't willing to go through that.
And it's hard to see him cry, right? You know, I mean, it was a good chunk of his little account that he had saved up. And yeah.
Yeah, I forgot which entrepreneur business parent that I heard this from, that like whenever they want to buy stuff, I guess more expensive stuff, they'll always do like 50-50 with the kid. Maybe the first time you buy it for them, but if it's like second time and after, it's like 50-50. That way they have like some skin in the game.
We had more of a philosophy of the necessities we'll buy, right? But like if you want, you know, if you need shoes and they're whatever, $50 or something, but you want the $200 shoes, right? Then you have to make up that difference, right? So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good like kind of comp kind of determination. Okay. So for the first or second generation woman, what would you tell her when she might feel underestimated or underappreciated and is afraid of standing her ground because she thinks that it will cost her a relationship or opportunities?
I would say it's going to, right? When you put boundaries, it's going to cost relationships or opportunities, but those are the ones you don't want. Right? People who are going to cross your boundaries, who are going to customers, clients, you know, business partners who are going to cross that. Like, you don't want that anyway. And it took me a long time to learn that because part of our culture, you know, the Asian culture is to be nice and, you know, of service, and also being a female too. There's a little bit of that. And so letting people push that, it's been a hard lesson, right? And it still is, right? But I've noticed that if I put the boundaries earlier, right, I could just be clear, and it just saves so many problems at the end too.
Kind of like what you did with your son, like setting the expectations clear. Yeah, I think that's really important. Are there any other kind of boundaries that you had to set up for yourself that helped you to heal from any childhood trauma, turning your pain into purpose and positivity?
I would say the thing that I've been working on the most the last few years, I'm having a milestone birthday. Let's just say I'm turning 30. No, having a milestone birthday this year. And like I shared, my youngest is going to college. So a lot of different identity shifts for me right now. So it started 2 years ago. Like, what does that mean? Like, who am I? Well, who is this person? Like, total midlife crisis questions, you know, like, what does the next half of my life look like? And a lot of healing that I've had to do. And it's come from, again, how I was raised, you know, generations, culture, all of that is people pleasing and external validation, right? Not getting enough of the love. Well, I didn't feel the love. I know my parents loved me. I didn't feel it, right? And so working through that has been a challenge. And when you work through those things, you put better boundaries. When you're like, I'm not trying to please you, I need to put myself first. And if I do something for you, it's because I genuinely want to in my heart versus I feel like I should just say yes.
Okay. Now, we talked about kind of putting back, like when we put boundaries or saying no, it costs us relationships. So I guess, how have you seen the better, like, come out of that, like all of those boundary settings?
So where it showed up really negatively in my life was when I didn't put those in initially, right? Then it's like they keep asking and you keep saying yes. And then it gets further and further and further, and to the point where you're like, okay, now this is super, like, I can't do this for you, right? And then it's this huge fight because it's like, you've been doing this and you've been, you know, why can't you just do this, right? And it's been hard lessons and loss of relationships, all of that. I think if you put it in early, there's not as much emotional investment. And so it's like, you don't even feel it, right? It's just hard to initially say, no, I'm not good with that, right? So yeah. And it's like any skill, you got to practice it, and you can do it with grace. You don't have to be like, girl, I'm not doing that for you, right? You can just be like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do that for you, right? Yeah.
Right, like that's a complete sentence. You don't really have to explain yourself, but you can.
Yep.
Okay, absolutely. And how has whether your marriage or any partnership really supported you in that journey and to be able to sustain all the work that you're doing?
I have been with my husband for more than half my life. And, when you question all the aspects of your life, you question every aspect of your life. And so, of course, then part of that is my marriage, right? I married a really good man. And of course, when I met him, I'm like, you're just hot. And so, of course, that's, that was the only reason why we started dating. But I was lucky, and he was just a good person. He's just steady and just like, I call him my rock. And I heard this once, it's like a TV show, but I thought it was so beautiful. Like, cause I'm a little out there and I'm adventurous. I love, new things. And so the quote that I heard was that she's like, I'm the kite and my husband's the string. Like, he lets me fly, right?
Aww.
He lets me be who I am and just go, but he also grounds me so I don't fly away. Like, I don't go too crazy. I don't get out there, right? So that's my husband.
I love that analogy. So what does healthy communication look like in your marriage or in your business or in your community network? Oh, and how has that supported your growth the most?
I think healthy communication really starts with listening and trying to really understand the other person's side and their perspective. I think this world, everything would be better if we just tried to listen and understand each other. Understanding does not mean I have to agree with you or give you what you want. It's just trying to see that perspective. Understand where your lens is coming from too, right? Understanding like, hey, these are all the trauma triggers. And so when you do this or say this, like, other people might be like, whatever, but that is triggering a response in me. And what does that say, right? And so I think those are the two things. It's like trying to understand the other person and understand yourself.
I love that. And yeah, that's something I do a lot with my finance students, like building active listening skills. So could you share maybe what are some listening skills you've taught to your children?
I think a lot of times people don't feel heard. And so one of the things that I really try to do is say, okay, so let me just paraphrase and see if I understand you clearly. You're telling me this, this, and this, right? So I think that when you hear your words repeated to yourself, number one, you feel heard. And then number two, let's be real. And I'm just saying this because it's happened to me. When someone repeats something that I said, I was like, oh, I'm being ridiculous. Because we have those moments where like, you're just in the heat of the moment and you're just like, ah, and then like when you hear it repeated back to you, you're like, yeah, you're right. Sorry, right? So sometimes that gets diffused right away just to hear those back. But then also, even if it's not ridiculous, it's like, ooh, that's interesting. I didn't know that that's what I was really saying, right?
Yeah, I love that tactic to paraphrase. I know definitely some people are better than others, but that's a very great strategy. And I guess one that I love is really just asking questions. I think, like you said, our culture comes from a lot of more criticism and assumption. And I always say it's better to be curious than to criticize. So,
and I think that's the last tactic that I love that, asking questions, because being curious versus criticizing, that also comes with like, so instead of like, oh, you did this to me and it made me feel this way, coming with vulnerability too, right? To say, when you did this or when this happened or you said this is how I felt. It doesn't mean you made me feel that way. It's because, again, you could have said the same thing to somebody else and they're like, whatever, but it's my lens. And so I felt that way. And so coming with vulnerability too, because it's hard to be mad at someone who's saying, I'm being vulnerable with you and I'm showing you why this bothers me or hurts me, right? Versus being like, you suck that you did this, right? Then it's like you're going to get defensive.
And I think that judgment portion is also so common. And another strategy that I like to share with my kids is something I've learned from improv, the yes and structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, as I also learned like sales skills, it's like, having that agreeing portion in any conversation is so key, so that helps the person, one, feel like they're heard, but also being validated.
100%. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so let's dive into some wellness questions because we are Suamora Wellness and we care about your well-being.
Yeah.
So what would you say is a self-care ritual that is whether rooted in your culture or your family that has been able to ground you over the years?
I don't think I really did a lot of self-care. I think when you become, and I'm only speaking for me, so I'm not going to speak generalities. When I became a mother, it was really hard to balance business and, kids and your spouse and everybody else, your family. So I did not do a lot of self-care. And that's the healing journey I've been on in the last 2 years. Yeah, like if you don't take care of yourself, you really can't take care of others. And, I knew that. Like, I'm not dumb. Like, people have told me that. But really, to put it into practice, I never did that. I tried. There were moments, I had like little moments here and there, but it really started 2 years ago for me. And putting in, it's about moving our bodies at the end of the day, right? And then again, this, looming number is coming, my age. So, doing all the things like longevity now and peptides and supplements. And now that's like a part-time job. But again, are you going to take care of yourself so that you can have a long, fulfilling life?
Right. Moving is key. I think I read somewhere that you can have a obese person, but if they do more cardio than a skinny person who doesn't do any cardio at all, they're still going to live longer. So I love that you're incorporating that. So what's your favorite type of movement?
I love dancing. I'm not a good dancer. I'm going to take this back. I used to think that I was a decent social dancer until I started taking dance lessons. And I'm like, dude, I suck. but I still enjoy it and love it. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Love that. I love dancing too.
What kind of dance?
Oh, man, just any. I grew up with Chinese dancing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that's my first tattoo. Well, second tattoo, technically. That was for my first 10 years. And then in high school and college, I started choreographing a little bit, like more like pop and hip hop. And then now just kind of doing random classes just for fun.
Yeah.
Like I did a bachata class.
That's my dance.
I love bachata.
Mm-hmm.
Did a salsa class. I did a belly dancing class.
That is so hard, isn't it? The belly dancing. I don't know. For me, I was just like, my body does not move that way.
I don't know. I guess there was one time or two times I did like a pole dancing one. And that was like, along with like college, like sorority life, like that was when I learned how to start twerking. So then since then, like I've known how to like move my hips. So I was okay in that class.
Okay, I have to tell you a funny story about my boss. So, I take lessons and I take group lessons and I do a private lesson. And so I was telling my husband, I'm like, babe, like we just spent an hour on my private lesson about how to like shake my hips, right? And I'm like, again, I thought I used to do some good social dancing. And I'm like, I've never been told by a man that I don't know how to shake my ass, right? Like you just move it, right? And so I was joking with my instructor. Like, I'm like, dude, like seriously, we're working an hour on this. And he's like, well, do you want to be able to move your hips elegantly or do you want to be ghetto? And I was like, I guess I've been dancing ghetto for like the last, how many years of my life. But yeah, there's like a technique for everything, right? In dance. So, well, the more elevated you want to get, I guess. But it was funny. I'm like, dude, I think the dance lessons is making me feel worse.
Oh, it's because I guess you have to like sort of unlearn the original type of dancing to learn this like more elegant type.
Yes, I guess, right?
Do you ever go dancing with your husband?
He is not a dancer. He knows how to two-step. I'm sorry, like, can you get any more white than that? He two-steps. So okay. I've learned a little two-stepping, but no, he's not a dancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. I kind of, if I need that or really want that as a criteria for my partner to like somewhat know how to dance.
That's got to be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And sort of evolving from your first book, you shared a little bit about how you're in the middle of writing or editing something deeply personal with your next book. So if you can please share a little bit about that and what the process has revealed for you regarding your continued healing journey and self-care journey.
So like I shared about 2 years ago, as this number's approaching for me, a little bit of a midlife crisis and a lot of personal reflection. And I've really realized how much success equals love, how love has been really conditional for me and how that shows up with needing so much external validation and all of those things tied into that. And definitely part of how I was raised, right? Love was conditional. Like you have to perform and succeed and do all of those things. And so as part of the journey, I wrote a book that the title is called It's Okay to Be Okay. Because okay sounds horrible, doesn't it? It sounds like you're so basic, but it's okay just to be okay. And I'm still editing it. It is personal. And part of the reason I haven't really put it out there yet is, I'm still on my journey, right? I'm still on my journey, and like I want, like, part of me, of course, wants this book to do well, and part of it wants to be like, change people's lives and be this like thought leader, right? But how much of that again is tied to external validation? And so I shared with you prior, before I came on, that like I think when I'm ready to be like, if nobody reads this book and I did it for me, right, that's when I'm going to be ready to publish it. And I hope that happens, before the end of this year. Really working on that. And I think I'm coming more to terms with that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely going to read that whenever it comes out.
But you don't need to, because I don't need that external validation.
Okay. I won't tell you, but I'm definitely going to buy it. Well, I was really excited when I heard that you had this first book, you're writing your next one, because one of my other tattoos is there's a book here, because I want to write a book too in the future. So I must ask, what are 1 to 2 sales strategies, because you've been selling, insurance policies and doing all that for a long time, that you can apply to your next book, or you have applied to your first book?
I think my both books about acceptance, right? Like I think there's like, we have so much self-judgment and self-doubt. Most of us do. And just accepting all the beauty of who you are. So like part of that first book is, like, I used to see other agency owners, insurance agencies owners, and they're crushing it. And I'm like, I know I'm doing good, but like, gosh, they're so like competition, and it's amazing how they can do that. I'm never going to do that, because that's not my personality. Like I definitely am competitive. I could incorporate like the competition and the systems, right? But like, they lead with competition. I lead with people. Like, we are inherently different people, but accepting the beauty and succeeding in that way, right? And so I think that's the message in both of my books, is just like the acceptance of yourself.
Okay, awesome. So definitely important to be comfortable with yourself and what kind of work you're putting out.
Yeah. And definitely, I think that shows, right? When, again, I can give you techniques, and of course there's always techniques and communication styles and things like that, but like, be authentic, be you, and people can see that, right? And care. I think the both books are about caring. And so I think it's when people know that you care and that you're okay being authentically you, that just shows integrity and trustworthiness. And I think that it's not a sales technique. It's just people are going to want to do business with you.
Okay. I guess I was going into it with the mind of like, thinking with the audience in mind. And I guess this is more specifically for, insurance agency owners. But I guess you're just saying, as long as you are showing up as the most authentic and real version of yourself, then pretty much anyone who likes you or is similar to you will resonate.
Or like showing that you care. And it doesn't have to be, they have to be similar to you. And that book is specifically for insurance agency owners, but the concept of, this is what I lead with. Somebody told me once that, and it's funny because he's very systems, right? And he's like, I lead with my brain so much, and you lead with your heart. And I really try to incorporate that. And that's, again, he's brilliant, right? I'm like not taking anything away from him. And there's like things that I've learned from him too, that I incorporate in my business. And I think that's just, people want to do business with who they trust and like. And so if you genuinely show interest in somebody and you're authentically you, they're going to do business with you.
Nice. And I've also heard recently that sometimes being authentic is hard for people. So another sort of alternative is to be consistent. Like however you are or whatever you want to do and put out, just be consistent.
Explain that to me. Why would being authentic be difficult for people?
Because, for example, let's say I want to be a best-selling author. Yeah. It's like, that's not actually my authentic self, right? I'm not actually a writer. I'm not actually a saleswoman yet. So like, that's not something that's really true to my identity, that I feel very authentic. And sometimes we have to adopt that like fake it till you make it mindset. But if you really want to put that out there, consistency is more key to, or like helpful to focus on for some people. Because then it's just like, how am I showing up every day to become that person? Right? Whether it's, just writing a page every day, writing 10 pages every day, joining a network of authors, to be able to talk about that every day. So that was kind of the example I heard.
So I'm going to reframe that, because like when you say that's not my authentic self, to me, like, and again, I'm just like, the way that I hear it is that I'm not being true to who I am, right? Versus, I'll give a good example. I was the kid. I was very popular in high school, but I did marching band because I didn't want to do PE. Because I was like, oh, people are sweating, gross, and like exercise, that's horrible, horrible, right? But as I went on this like journey of I'm gonna get in shape and I want to take care of my body and I want to be healthy, right? I told myself I'm an athlete. Right. And what would an athlete do? And so I'm like, an athlete's going to get their butt up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym. Right. And so that consistency behavior that you said. Right. But I was still my authentic self. It's not like I was like, telling people like, oh, I'm somebody like Olympic athlete. Right. But I was telling myself I am. And I've moved towards that. I think I'm very athletic. I work out a lot now and I've made that part of my identity. I didn't fake it. I just was trying to train my brain into thinking one day you will get there. Right. So reframing it.
Yeah. Right. I think that's so important to reframe the mindset in basically any of our goals, any of our difficult situations. It's all about just how we perceive things.
100%. Or then stop the negative self-talk, right? Because if I'm always saying, yeah, I'm that kid, because I was like sweating, gross, like exercise. Like if I'm saying that, then I'm never going to want to go to the gym, right? Versus now I enjoy it.
Love that. So since we kind of brought up your younger self a little bit, what is one piece of advice for the younger generation or even your younger self who is finding their identity and career path?
I would say, again, just love yourself. Be who you are, and it's beautiful in all the wonderful ways that are different from anybody else, right? Again, and I'm not saying don't challenge yourself. I'm not saying don't work on the things that you need to work on, but just truly love yourself because it starts there. If you can love yourself, you have so much love and gifts and energy that you can spread out to this world.
Okay. Well, how are you loving yourself today?
Well, I'm definitely taking better care of myself. I'm definitely putting, whether that's, investing in working out and taking care of myself, but also putting better boundaries. I'm loving myself where I want deeper connections with people and working on that. So working on how I talk to people, how much time I invest in the different relationships I have. So yeah, that's how I'm working on myself and, continue to learn and read and all the things.
Okay. Many great strategies there. And what's something we haven't touched on that you feel needs to be said or heard, if anything?
I think we've touched on a lot of everything that we've kind of said. The only thing I would add is I think it is hard being an immigrant, and we don't talk about that enough. I think, our Asian immigrant mentality is, don't talk about it, shut up and just work hard, right? Versus recognize that. And it doesn't mean that's going to hold you back. It means it's just going to make you stronger if you recognize it and work on it. And again, love yourself.
And at the same time, find your forms of support.
Yeah.
I love hearing that all of you are connected through EO. And I think, definitely, whether being an immigrant or, just a hyper independent person, it's, once you're able to let some of those walls down and open up, it's just crazy beneficial.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to do a rapid fire round.
Okay.
So just kind of first thing that comes to your mind. Okay, number 1, a phrase or ritual used to ground yourself before a hard combo.
I tend to do a mental loop. What I mean like that is I go over and over and over and over things again, in my head. So if I'm going to have a hard conversation, I just need to clear my head. So I do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing. Have you heard of that? Where you have 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, like that. I do that exercise.
Love it. Can you say all 5 just for our listeners?
Oh, sure. It's I think it's 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And so it's ridiculous. So if you ever see me in my car, I'm not a weirdo, but sometimes I do that where I'm like, I have nothing to taste, right? So I'm like, I'll lick myself. I'll be like, so.
Nice. Okay, I love that. Number 2, one leadership habit people should stop.
Always, what's the next goal? Always. And then again, I'm not saying not have your dreams, but when is it ever going to be enough, right? So just always questioning that when you're making your goals and, the next benchmark for yourself.
3, one habit every first generation professional should start.
A self-care, self-love ritual, whatever it looks like for them.
Love it. Biggest non-negotiable in your agency culture.
I want to work with people I like, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Biggest myth about the insurance industry.
Oh, gosh. That it's a horrible, boring industry. It's amazing and wonderful and fun.
Yeah, I mean, you've been there for over 2 decades. Favorite bee pun?
Ooh, I mean, yes, our agency vision is be a difference, and it's BEE. Oh gosh, one of my employees got me this plaque. I think it's so girly. It's like beautiful, right? And it's like a little plaque with a bee. So I look at it every day on my desk. She got it for me, so it's beautiful.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, a book, podcast, or resource that shaped how you lead.
I mean, I refer a lot to scaling up. I mean, that's part of EO, and that's like scaling your business, leadership. What would be a good leadership for me? That's hard because I feel like it's like a compilation of so many books, right, that you read.
Or just a favorite book
Yeah.
that's really shaped you as a person or mom or woman.
I love, what's her name? Oh gosh, I'm blanking. Brene Brown, all of her books, right?
Yeah.
I think they're just lovely and about vulnerability, and she's so vulnerable. So I really love her books. Mm-hmm.
Nice. And she's a great storyteller.
Mm-hmm. She is.
I want to do a TED Talk like her. And lastly, finish the sentence. Being okay is not blank, it is blank.
It's not basic. It's freeing.
It's freeing.
Mhm.
Love it. All right. So we're at our closing questions. How can the Suamora community support you, your agency, or the work that you are putting out into the world right now?
I think there's just not enough positivity out there in the world today. And so just paying it forward and putting your energy out there, right? About healing and wellness and supporting one another.
Absolutely. Where can our audience find you, work with you, or get their hands on your first or next book?
Well, that's on Amazon, but reach out. I am on Instagram. I do have my ulyannachung.com. But yeah, reach out. Social media. I'm not the best. My assistant manages it for me, but we will reach out to you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll share all those in the description. And lastly, as a reference to Suamora's name, what does resilient love look like for you?
When we talked about this podcast, we talked about the immigrant experience. And I think that's just, as an immigrant, you have to be resilient. And I think that's one of the most important skills in life. Life is tough, and you're going to get hit and you're going to get pushed down. How quickly will you get up? So I heard this Olympic skier speak once, amazing woman. She's like a speed skater and a skier. And she was in the Olympics, and she was not favored to win at all. She was probably going to be placed 5th or 6th. And so she is ready for her, competition. And the first 10 skiers go, and the favorites, all of them, all 10 fall on this one area, right? They just fell. And I don't know if there was like an ice patch or whatnot, but they all fell in this one area. And so of course she's like, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself in front of the whole world. I don't want to fall. And she's just in her head about it, right? And so she ends up going, and she does fall, right? But her speed when she was going before she fell beat everybody. She could have come into first, right? Like her time before she fell was just so, like, she was like, what do they call it when you're like the underdog, right? She was the underdog, and her speed was so fast, right? But when she fell, she was like, oh my goodness, I'm so embarrassed. Like, the whole world saw me fall. But she gets up and finishes the race, right? And she ended up getting 2nd place. She got the silver medal, right? And she's like, there's no reason I shouldn't have gotten the gold. I just didn't get up faster than the woman who did, right? The woman who did was like, in Olympic terms, like, microseconds, but an eternity, that time difference was such a big difference in the first half before they both fell. But she just got up faster. So
it's all about how many times can you get back up?
Yep, exactly. How quickly will you get up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, well, thank you, Yuli. This is amazing.
You. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And we have a little something for you.
Aww.
This is our podcast engineer today, assisting us.
Oh, I get flowers. Yay. They're so beautiful. Thank you. I feel like I should have a crown too, right? Like a tiara, like Miss Podcast of the day.
You're giving us some ideas for next time. But I just want to share that I've made the flower a part of Suamora's logo, because it's kind of referencing this saying that we don't often get flowers while we can still smell them. So I love to give you your flowers, physically, but also verbally in the sense of I really appreciate you being here and just, all the incredible work that you've done and, how much of an inspiration you are and just really the kind and sweet and beautiful being that you are. And I don't know what age you are, but you don't look, really past even you're like 35, honestly. So I think, the self-care work and the self-love work is really working, and I hope you continue it. And I hope that we can continue a relationship and really continue supporting each other and fellow Asian American women. And yeah, just really appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. And I actually do want to share something about the flowers then, because I love flowers and nature and trees and I'm just all about that. And how you know a tree is the healthiest is when it flowers, right? And when it flowers, that's when bees and things come and it's like you're spreading out to the world. And that's what you're doing. You're spreading out to the world and sharing, giving back of your gifts. So thank you.
Thank you, Uli. Yay.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.